trail of death and destruction.
The group is well armed.
Extraordinarily ferocious.
This is a war.
The Islamist extremist group Boko Haram has terrorized Nigeria and neighboring countries for over a decade. Suicide bombings, the burning of villages, and mass kidnappings like the abduction of more than 200 schoolgirls from the town of Chibok have left thousands dead and millions displaced.
This has really tested Nigeria to the point that certain parts of the country are not under the control of the government.
So how did Boko Haram become such a threat for so long? And why has the fight to eradicate it failed? Let us unpack that for you. It's hard to imagine now, but when Boko Haram first emerged, it was largely peaceful, winning over followers with its opposition to Nigeria's ruling class. The group was founded in the early 2000s here, in the northeastern town of Maiduguri in Borno State, an especially impoverished part of the country. Its leader was a charismatic cleric by the name of Muhammad Yusuf. He argued that rampant corruption, mismanagement, and a lack of opportunities for ordinary Nigerians were the result of a secular government, too influenced by the West. Yusuf called for an Islamic state based on his hardline interpretation of Sharia law instead, convincing his followers this would bring them justice.
It was just a sect that had been able to garner up a following, not just in the northeast of Nigeria, but even had followers in other parts of the country.
Tommy Oladipo has reported on Boko Haram for years and spoken to many of its members.
People might disagree with the need for a Sharia leadership, but there's no disputing that secular governance that we have is corrupt.
Boko Haram's activities took a dramatic turn in 2009, when its members waged an armed uprising.
And that has since gone on to become an all-out war in a sense.
In the clashes which followed, 800 people died. Among them was the leader Muhammad Yusuf, who was killed in police custody. Nigerian authorities actually thought they had defeated the group and declared victory. But Boko Haram soon re-emerged under the leadership of Abu Bakr Shekau, Yusuf's former deputy. He sees anyone who rejects Boko Haram's authority as an opponent and a fair target for the group. That includes Muslims or even children. The next couple of years would be devastating for Nigeria. In 2011, Boko Haram targeted the UN complex in the capital, Abuja, killing 23 people. In 2014, also in the capital, the group killed nearly 100 people with a bomb at a bus stop. Later that same day, the group abducted the Chibok schoolgirls, an act that shocked the world. It was also around that time that the group started seizing territory. At its peak, it controlled 20 local government areas, estimated to be roughly the size of Belgium.
As it became more militant, it started to recruit forcibly. In certain towns and villages it would conquer, and it would take the men and force them, especially the young men, force them to become fighters. We've also seen the use of children as well. We see these militants as they move across northeast Nigeria, they tend to engage with communities and they tend to tax these communities. They're farming communities, trading communities, and they'll have to pay money or give some of their produce to these militants in exchange for safety. And we see that this is how these groups creep from one area to the other and expand their control.
Change in the makeup of Boko Haram has also exacerbated its threat, making it more difficult to control. Over the years, it has split into multiple factions, each having a different, albeit violent, agenda. Shekau still leads one faction. The original Boko Haram, so to speak, maintains the extremely violent approach that has defined the group so far. Another prominent faction known as the Islamic State in West Africa Province, or ISWAP, is aligned with ISIS. ISWAP is critical of Shekau's indiscriminate use of violence against Muslim civilians. It has promised to concentrate its attacks largely on Christians. Another smaller splinter group is known as Ansaro. It has claimed high-value targets, such as foreigners in Nigeria.
The splitting should have weakened the threat against the Nigerian force, because we've seen infighting between these factions. It should have been something that the Nigerian military and forces should have been able to take advantage of, but they haven't really. As much as these groups are a threat to each other, they still remain a threat to the state. And if one group is defeated, there's still another group to fight. So regardless of the level of the threat that they pose, they pose a longer threat. And I think that is the problem at the moment.
But this threat didn't appear in a vacuum. The Nigerian government has played its part in the ongoing violence, particularly thanks to its lack of a sustainable security strategy.
If you defeat the group in one town and then you move on to the next town, if you leave that town empty, the group can always come back. The famous town Chibok, where hundreds of schoolgirls were abducted, has been attacked several times since that abduction. So it's clear that there's no adequate security on the ground.
And that's not all. Corruption and mismanagement have plagued the Nigerian government's efforts to crush Boko Haram, sowing mistrust among the civilian population. Videos like these of soldiers claiming they are not well equipped to fight the group have surfaced online.
Imagine, they are killing us every day. The soldier will be in the war front, no helmet, no fragmental jacket, no enough ammunition. We are fighting to defend our country. The generals are shooting us.
If you look over the past few years, we've seen Nigerian senior military chiefs, after they leave office, they're being tried for corruption. The national security advisor from a few years ago had been facing a corruption case. So these are the people who should have been equipping and leading Nigeria's forces against the enemy.
Experts also say that Nigeria's military focuses on conventional combat, leaving it poorly equipped to fight a group that uses the tactics of guerrilla warfare.
These are people who are out to fight to the death. These are people who know the terrain very well. They don't wear uniforms like an army sometimes, and so they're able to have informants everywhere and move around. They know the language very well. They know the area. They know the people.
That's why eliminating the insurgency can't rely on military might alone. For it to really work, the Nigerian government has to win the trust of the people. Amnesty International said that in its fight to eradicate Boko Haram, the Nigerian government has also committed human rights violations, such as arbitrary executions.
You have to bring the people on side, and to be frank, there is a mistrust of the Nigerian state, of the Nigerian security forces right across the country, and the Nigerian authorities need to prove to the people that they can be trusted. So the people need to be shown that if they are freed from the control of Boko Haram, they are now under the control of a better leadership, which is the government, rather than going from one oppressor to another.